My name's Sally. Today I'm going to share with you my tips on how to sit well for your dressage training. Whether you're starting out or are a seasoned competitor, these tips are for you. I've helped hundreds of other riders do the same thing, so let's get started on my tips for sitting well for your dressage training. So firstly, you want to think about the body, and you think about the body in two halves. You've got the top half, and then of course you've got the bottom half. When you're in the saddle on your horse, you want to be thinking from the waist up and separately from the waist down. So from the waist up, you have got the back and the front body, and the core really wraps those two things together. And careful not to think of the core as one particular place on the body. When I talk about the core in terms of riding, in terms of dressage, you want to think about the whole upper body, the whole trunk of the body, your torso. So what muscles are there for that? You've got your back muscles that run up and down either side of your spine. And then at the front, you've got your core muscles, you've got the top half of your core muscles, and then you've got the bottom half of your core. So that when you're riding, all of those muscles in the upper body are helping to keep the spine tall and the torso tall coming out of the saddle, and you want to be tall from the waist up. And don't forget, of course, the head. You want your head right on top of your neck and nice and straight on top of the neck. Lots of students do tend to go around with a little tilt and not realize it. So be aware of the head and the tilting of the head. You want to keep that nice and straight. Okay, and so once the torso is nice and tall and straight, and you've got your back muscles, and think of those back muscles as activated. Not necessarily engaged, but certainly activated, and then the engagement of those muscles will come and go depending on what you need to do. So you've got a nice tall torso coming out of the waist, and that will allow the shoulder to sit down nicely. The shoulder will sit there nicely. You want to imagine your shoulder blades coming back and together, and your arm just sits to the side of your body, and you want to let gravity pull that upper arm down. You don't want to be fighting forwards or too far backwards. You want that open feeling across your chest though, and you want your collarbones wide. And of course that is all going to be supported by what the front body is doing. Okay, so when your collarbones are wide and your shoulders are nice and down away from the ears, and the arm is hanging, then that gives the forearm the best chance to be sitting in a good position to hold your reins. And when the forearm is in a good position, it means your knuckles will stay vertical and the thumb will stay on top. So you want to avoid flat hands. That is only going to completely change the angle of the forearm, and that will bring the shoulders around, hunching the back, dropping the collarbones, and then you'll get that crunching, scrunching down feeling that is going to completely compromise your seat, and you won't have any strength in your seat. You'll be in a fetal position, and that's not a position of confidence. You want to be nice and tall and confident with the shoulders back and down, and that's what gives you the strength to keep your bum in the saddle when you need it, which is all of the time. And then when you've got that strength keeping your bum in the saddle, you've also got strength to use the seat for your aids or position the leg in when and where you need it. So without the upper body being strong, you're not going to be able to use the lower body in a way that is useful for your training. So the next thing you want to think about is from the waist down. So you want to be long from the waist down. You want long, straight legs. You want the heel to be underneath the hip and the shoulder. And don't be afraid to take videos or photographs of yourself and double check, get out your ruler, double check that line. And in that way, you can coach yourself on, what you need to work on in your next training. So you want nice and long from the waist down. Now you want your knees facing forward. You can imagine your knees are pointing at the horse's mouth, or your toes are pointing at the horse's teeth, whatever works for you. And you want the heel to be a little bit away from the horse, and that's going to help the inner thigh stay soft. The inner thigh right up the top should be quite soft. You're not gripping with the groin, you're not gripping with the hamstrings. Your legs are straight, your knees are straight, pointing forward, and any grip you'll have will be down on the knee, on the inside of the knee and the very, very low thigh. So you want to do everything you can to make sure that you're not gripping with the inner upper thigh. That is only going to push you out of the saddle and push your bum further away from the horse, which in turn is going to make your seat aids far less effective, which we don't want in dressage. We want a horse that's listening to the seat. You want a horse that when you put your seat on here, it moves its body correspondingly and you get what you want. Just like when you put the rein on and the horse moves its body correspondingly and you get what you want. The other thing to think about is the seat bones and the evenness of the seat bones. You want the horse coming up from behind you to push up through those seat bones and carry you forward. And if you don't have an activated gait, say you're in trot, if you don't have an activated trot, you're not going to get that push from behind. And so whenever you hear your coach say more push from behind or more activity, you want to be able to feel it coming from behind underneath the saddle and pushing your seat bones forward, pushing your buttocks forward as well. And so if you don't get that feeling, then that's something that you should be looking at in your training. And so with the seat bones even, in an ideal world, with the horse pushing from behind underneath you, then that allows you to stay with the horse and the horse is carrying you properly. If the horse is not listening to your seat, then you still need the seat bones even anyway. Even if the horse is trying to dump you down in a hole underneath the saddle, then you need to leave that other seat bone up in thin air. It'll feel like you're sitting a bit like this. However, you just need to stay there until the horse lets you in and then becomes softer underneath those seat bones. But don't forget, you don't want softness at the expense of activity or that push from behind. You want both. Just like if you ask for a flexion with your rein, you still expect the same forward, just with that flexion as well. So keep that in mind as well. So with those tips on how to sit for your dressage training, hopefully you'll be able to work on your position tomorrow and improve your training. If you found this video useful, hit the like button. Do you know someone who would find this information helpful? Don't forget to tag them and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for watching and staying with me. I'll talk to you next time.